is to make you think. And I'm your host, Damian Perdue, your metaphysical guide on this audio ride of radio delights. And of course, I'm joined by Paulie C.
Yo, yo, yo.
And today the C stands for cosmic.
The Cosmos.
The Cosmos. Paulie Cosmos.
And Cosmo Kramer.
And that's because today we're going to talk about the cosmic triangle. And also the human triangle and how it relates.
But not the Bermuda Triangle?
Maybe.
I feel like that has not gotten mentioned enough on this show.
That's true.
Because we're definitely in that generation that was worried about it for some reason.
Yes.
Yeah. Like one plane goes missing and we just got to like worry about this.
There's actually, it's funny you brought it because there's an episode of Seinfeld where Kramer and Newman are talking about conspiracy stuff real quick. It's like a really quick scene and they bring up the Bermuda Triangle. But it is, I mean, in a way, it all connects, man, like a triangle. But so the cosmic triangle is essentially a kind of a simplistic way to view the universe, right? Which would be time, space, and energy. And a lot of scientists, cosmologists, they use the cosmic triangle as the kind of base for how the universe exists in simplistic terms, right? But I was also thinking about in a kind of the esoteric, mystical sense of the human body, where you have the mind, the body, and the spirit, or the soul, whatever you perceive, and how that relates very close, almost exactly, to time, space, and energy. So you have time and the mind, how that relates, and you have space and the body, how that relates, and then you have energy and the spirit. And the show is 3 segments, so hey, the show is like a triangle, man. And not only that, but the triangle itself is very important in human history in terms of when ancient humans kind of first figured out how the triangle could be used for architecture, for navigation, even on to now in modern times, they use it for GPS and satellites. So it's always been very important in terms of what humans have used, throughout civilization. But how does time, since it's the first the segment would be time and the mind, how is time and the mind related? Okay. And there's a bunch of different ways. One, if you think of time and how we understand it and how we navigate it in terms of the universe. Okay, so you have like the Big Bang. The universe itself is like a big clock or a kind of like one really long ruler that just extends from the beginning, from the Big Bang on down to where we are now. So if you think of, because we think of time as a clock, this kind of rotating thing, 24-hour cycle, whatever, what we see. But time in itself is kind of almost just a measurement of distance in terms of the universe, right? Because we are on a planet that's spinning around the solar system is spinning around the galaxy, but it all emerged from the Big Bang onward. And that measurement of time...
Well, even the fact that we measure things by light years, that's like a distance and a time thing.
Exactly. Yeah. And then we see these different, we perceive these different epochs throughout time and throughout the universe. We measure the, whatever the different eras of the universe and the expansion, the evolution, how the solar system formed and all that. But really, it is a traveling concept. It's not stationary, right? We weren't, we're still not in the same position we were in, last year, the year before. The Earth is constantly moving throughout space. So our perception of it is this kind of forward-moving thing, because we are always constantly forward-moving through space. And then the mind itself has to view time in that way. right? And it dissects it in, milliseconds, minutes, hours. And now, time has always been a very daunting thing to study, the philosophers and the mystics and on to the scientists and the physicists. But now with the neuroscience, it's becoming even more complex and dissected in terms of how our brain perceives it. And it's kind of still in its infancy in terms of in neuroscience and studying why the brain reacts the way it does to time, right? So you have like the hippocampus. It creates the time scale for events, and that allows us to remember experiences of the varying durations from seconds to hours. And then you have like mental time travel. It's like the ability to mentally project ourselves into the past or future, which is supposedly a uniquely human capability, which relies on the brain's capacity to process and organize time. And then predicting the future. The brain also uses past experiences to predict future events and demonstrates this temporal processing abilities. And I was talking about with the neuroscience, you have these different neural networks, like specific brain regions, like the parietal cortex and the hippocampus that are involved in processing the different aspects of time perception. And different neurons respond to different correlations of time. And neurons can detect and respond to specific time intervals, which suggests a fundamental role for neural activity and time processing. So neuroscientists believe that there are different neurons that perceive milliseconds and different ones that perceive hours and minutes. And there have studies have shown that manipulating neural activity can alter how the brain perceives time. And then time and consciousness, you have covariance, where there's a sense in which consciousness and time are covariant, meaning they influence each other. And I know Richard Feynman, who's a famous physicist, believed that consciousness was essential in understanding time and also the universe itself. There's also unity of experience, where time plays a crucial role in creating a sense of unity and continuity in our conscious experience by bridging events through working memory. Learning and planning, the brain uses temporal information to anticipate events, understand cause and effect relationships, and plan actions. There's time perception is crucial for survival, and also most likely a product of our evolutionary processes and pressures. And of course, we all, know how time seems to go faster as we get older. And I was reading an article recently about how, I always thought that was because as you get older, more time is felt less. So when you're younger, a year is a much bigger part of your life than when you're an older person. Now, I think that is part of it, but there's now these studies that show it also has more to do with unique activity and how the brain remembers time. So when you're younger, everything you do every day is a new experience. So your brain locks that in more so than later when you start to do more repetitious work and the days kind of blend together. You're not doing as much, unique events or different, we can't all travel all the time. We can't all experience different things. And also because of past experiences, your brain remembers it. So if you've already been through it, the brain's like, well, I'm not going to take up memory, kind of remembering that same thing. So the days kind of blend together as you get older, which is an interesting concept. I didn't really think about it in that term as far as, unique experiences. So in this article I was reading about, the new studies, they were saying one way to kind of extend time and not feel like time is moving so fast is to create newer experiences for yourself. Whether it's going to a restaurant you've never been to, or trying a new hobby, or taking a trip. something new to trigger the brain, and that will create memories that will extend your time longer. And we were talking about that before the show, about how these different things you can do to extend time and make it not feel as fast.
No, that was interesting because, like, you know, obviously there's like one mathematical way to look at why does time move quicker as you get older, and that's like your time, you know, alive keeps, you know, the longer you get, the smaller that increment gets, however you want to divide it. You know, you've experienced so many minutes, you've experienced so many seconds, so many years, and I think we feel it more with years. Like, when I was a kid, things move slower. Now that I'm an adult, years fly by. But then when you brought up I think, you know, I think that's like an overall lifespan sort of way to look at it. But then, like, the minutia, the day-to-day, the middle stuff, the why is it certain days are quicker and certain days are slower. And it's like, I think I was talking about how, you know, school or work, you know, when you dreaded it, it took forever.
Yeah.
You know, like an 8-hour day, it was just like, ugh. But then, like, jobs you like or experiences that you want to do flies by. You know, it's like, call time was 6. Next thing I knew, we're packing up at midnight, you know, or like, you know, 6 a.m. to midnight or whatever flies by, you know.
Yeah, and I wonder, too, if anyone's done any studies on how the different measurement, like technologically speaking. So we grew up with actual, you know, clocks on the wall, right, in school.
Second hand and minute hand,
So that end of the day, and you're watching, you know, the second hand, you know, the last 5 minutes of school just felt so long. Right.
Whereas if you had a 5-minute passing period to get from one end of the school to the other, it seemed like, man, 5 minutes is not enough.
So then, but that, I feel like, it was so in our face in a different way than kids today who have, you know, digital clocks, or there's on their phone, and they're constantly reminded of time in different ways. I wonder how that, you know, if anyone's done a study on the different kind of, you know, how you perceive time in that way. Technologically speaking, right? That's just, you know, thought that popped in my head. But there's also, I was reading this neuroscientist Masamichi Hayashi, and he's been studying the different kind of effects of time with the and how the different neurons perceive time and all that. But what he was saying that he was doing, they do these a technique called transcranial magnetic stimulation, where they stimulate I think it's parietal cortex, or
it seems like a guy with a metal plate in his head going through a microwave or something.
But they stimulate it with the magnets and see if it changes the perception of time.
Huh.
Yeah.
This just feels like some wasted grant money stuff. This was like...
But he was also saying, he was saying, I'm trying to find that section, because he was talking about that he believes that they will be able to make some kind of like a technology, right, where you would wear like a device that would somehow connect to your brain, or maybe one of the Neuralink things or whatever, and you could slow or speed down or speed up time. If they figure out which neurons, you know, through this kind of magnetic stimulation thing, and his, you know.
But what would that be like if you're like slowing down time? Would everybody be like talking like really slow, or like would you be really slow and everyone's moving quick?
that isn't. Yeah, that's an interesting.
Man, what's wrong with Paul? He's just
right.
Slowly moving through.
Well, what he was saying is that, like, imagine if you have this device where, you know, let's say you have something to do with tedious, or you're waiting in line, like you're at the DMV, and you know it's going to be 2 hours, but you press this thing in your device, and it makes time go boop, 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 and it feels like 5 minutes.
This is like it can't get any worse after smartphones. Everyone's on their smartphone all the time. It's like, no, I just like blip out of reality, man.
Yeah, I know.
I wake up at the end of the line when no, that's not good.
And then on the flip side, though, you could slow it down. So if you're having a lot of fun and you don't want it to pass by fast,
hanging out with someone like, button. I hope this never ends.
Yeah,
and then,
you press the other button, and it's like, oh my God, it felt like a week. I don't know exactly how that would work, but he said he believes that this could be a possibility.
Would it work with those that want us to be a 2-hour show? Could they just like slow us down?
There you go. But we'd have to all, it'd be coordinate, we'd have, all right, guys.
All right, now.
5, 4, 3, 2, press your slow down time button. That would be great. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about how space and the body are related on Think Theory Radio right after this. Welcome back to Think Theory Radio. This is Damien, and today we are talking about the cosmic triangle, or the human body. And actually, that is a very esoteric thing, and we'll probably get more into in the next segment, but the human body, if you think of tantric Buddhist meditation, when they sit in the lotus position, is because they believe that you are creating this kind of perfect triangle. So the last segment, we talked about a little bit about time and the mind and how it's connected, how we perceive time through the mind and consciousness. What about space and the body? Now, there's a bunch of different correlations here as well, where you have one, the body itself is how we move around in space. And it's also how we feel space and spatial recognition and spatial awareness and touch and where we know where other things are and other objects and other people. But there's also the connection of where does our body come from? From space. From stardust, man. I mean, this is how the human body and the universe are connected, right? Which is pretty interesting when you think about how almost all the elements within our body were created in the crucible of stars. And not only that, but the universe expands and contracts, and so does the body.
The universe is breathing.
Yeah.
Inhales and exhales.
I mean, we really look at there's always the as above, so below. And, if you're religious, we're made in God's image. But if you think of it in the universe, it's very similar, our body structure, when you think about.
Okay. And
now, even at the more we understand the universe, we see even more connections. Like how, I don't know if it was Hubble or James Webb, but they took these really amazing images of the galactic filaments. And there's literally these gaseous filaments that connect all the different galaxies. And if you look at it, it looks like a web. It looks like our central nervous system in a lot of ways.
Okay.
Yeah. And the same thing with how the neurons fire off in the brain and all the connection in there. So there's a lot of different ways that we mirror the universe in itself. There's also how we're affected by space, from gravity, inertia, the way we move. I mean, we're talking about how we perceive time and our movement through the solar system and through the universe, but our movement on Earth here and how we're affected by the Earth's rotation and the Earth's gravity, that all affects our body. The circadian rhythms, right? You have the gravity effects and different shifts in fluid distribution. There's potential impacts on vision, your cardiovascular system. We think about, I guess you could think of the circadian rhythm thing as also how it ties into time, because of, but it has to do with where we are, how we perceive the sun, and different people on different parts of the earth have kind of a different clock, right? Because of their position on Earth and how where the sun goes up and down. And what's other crazy is that supposedly 99.99% of your body is just empty space.
Wait, say that again? 99.99% is empty space. Yeah, no, I've always heard that like you can consolidate
because
there's a lot of water, a lot of just expanded stuff, you know. Like,
well, we're made up of atoms.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And atoms are pretty much 99% of an atom's volume is just vacuum. Like if you zoom in.
Yeah. No, I've always heard that. Like you can consolidate like the whole world down into like a small box, I want to say. Like, yeah, atomically.
Mm-hmm. So, and it's kind of similar to how we view, the universe itself, right? It's, I think it's 94% of the universe, or matter only makes up like 6% of the universe. So 94% is, well, we think it's dark matter or dark energy or something, but essentially it's kind of, we don't know what it is. So there's a correlation there between like how our bodies, which is also very interesting to me, how we perceive our own space of our own body and, how we view it as being solid when it's not. And I was listening to Buckminster Fuller a little, where he was talking about, he's the engineer and inventor of the geodesic dome, and he was talking about how he was doing a lecture at MIT, and he was telling all these smart students, like, you guys are pretty ignorant, and they're like, what do you mean? And he's like, because you've been taught one way, you've been taught to believe that you're solid and everything's solid, but you're mostly made up of vacuum. You're mostly made up of these kind of, obviously there's packets of energy. Right.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting when you think about like, because it is, an atom, if you zoom in and keep zooming in, even into like down into the electrons and everything, there's just a lot of space. At least we think it is. We perceive it as that. Who knows? Maybe we're just not advanced enough to see what really is in there. But yeah, when you think about how the, different ways that our body has, what elements are in there, from gold and iron. Now, I know before the show you were talking about lead too. How was lead made? You have to look that one up. Just the way we perceive space and how our bodies move through it is pretty interesting to me. Also, I found an article about the Leonardo da Vinci's Vitruvian Man.
Okay.
It's the drawing of the man when you see
jumping jack medical looking dude. Yeah.
So, and I was actually going to bring this up on Weird Science, but I didn't get to it. But I was like,
say the name of that thing again, though. What?
Vitruvian Man.
Vitruvian Man. Okay. Yeah. I just need to never put a name to it.
Yeah. The jumping jack guy.
Yeah, jumping jack medical guy. That's how I always saw him.
Yeah. But I thought this was pretty interesting. There was I guess a missed clue in the drawing, and this dentist figured it out. So in this article, it says, the search for Leonardo's geometric method has generated numerous theories, each attempting to explain the measured relationship between the circle and the square in the original drawing. Taking the ratio between the side of the square and the circle radius, it says the most popular explanation has been that Leonardo employed the golden ratio, which is like the Fibonacci sequence and all that.
You showed me that recently. The Premier League is currently like that with its titles. That's
And no one could figure out exactly why. There was something where, and I'm trying to find where he said Leonardo wrote a note about the triangle. Where is it at? In his characteristic mirror script, Leonardo wrote, if you open your legs enough that your head is lowered by 1/14 of your height and raise your hands enough that your extended fingers touch the line of the top of your head, Know that the center of the extended limbs will be the navel, and the space between the legs will be an equilateral triangle. McSweeney, who's this dentist, has figured out this code within the Vitruvian Man. In other words, Leonardo had literally told everybody how he was designing the figure, but nobody noticed really what he was talking about. And this dentist figured it out. The Vitruvian jaw. Sounds like a kind of like Gwar death metal band.
Right, yeah. Yeah, or like an album or something.
Yeah, definitely more like an album. So McSweeney's personal training comes into play with this, because the equilateral triangle of the Vitruvian Man seems to have stuck out to him in part. As a dentist, he's familiar with something very similar, which is in 1864, dentist William Bonwell established that optimal human mandibular function is based on an equilateral triangle connecting the two mandibular condyles, or jaw joints.
We'll go with that.
Mandibles.
Yeah.
You know, your mandibles.
Yeah, your jaw,
Yeah, to the midpoint of the lower central incisors. Bonwell's triangle, as it's now known, is such a good guideline for real life that modern dental instruments are based on it. And our own faces follow it too, with the triangle governing ideal tooth positioning, jaw relationships, and the mandible movements during function. So through this code, I want to say he broke the code, but he figured out that in the Vitruvian Man, underneath in the legs, right, is another triangle that is the mirror of the mandible triangle. And I guess the way that Leonardo did it was he put the navel just slightly off center of the circle, which created this perfect kind of mirrored triangle. And it was something no one figured out for years until this dentist.
And they cracked the Da Vinci Code.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. Trying to find, where was the other part he said? So from the hexagonal close packing of atoms to the tetrahedral architecture of dental occlusion to the cranial proportions found exclusively in humans, we observe consistent mathematical relationships encoded in biological form, McSweeney writes. Vitruvian Man stands as a testament to Leonardo's insight that human proportions reflect deeper mathematical principles governing optimal spatial organization. And it's the tetrahedron, which is the three-dimensional triangle, which a lot of people in sacred geometry circles and kind of like ancient mystics believe that this was kind of the most perfect structure and that it is the base of all things.
It's also the parent company for the Onion, Global Tetrahedron.
Yeah. See, they're on some smart stuff there.
Oh yeah, no, it was intense when they were going after InfoWars to purchase that.
Yeah. Well, but that wasn't InfoWars' parent company name, right?
No,
that was the Onions.
No, that's the Onions. But this, I think I'd talk to you. This is a side thing, but when they were, I think it fell through. But when they were trying to initially purchase it, and they initially got it, the post that Global Tetrahedron did was hilarious because they were talking about like all the supplements that Alex Jones has, and like, it's like we're gonna chop it all up and put it into like a super candy bar that maybe a certain CEO could take to see if it prolongs his life or something like that. Yeah, it was well written. Way better than I just gave it. But I don't know. Global Tetrahedron. That has nothing to do with anything. Yeah, nothing to do with anything.
Well, it does have something to do with something because it's the tetrahedron is a triangle, and we're talking about the cosmic triangle, man. The onion is like the earth. Peel the layers, you find the deeper meaning in things, man.
Comedy is a universal language. I don't know.
Yeah. And the body is a microcosm of the universe. But yeah, it's I thought it was interesting with it, like reading the stuff, and it talked about the universe expands and contracts, and I've like the body does the same thing. So like in spring and summer, we feel that expansion of the season. Fall and winter, you get the life where those trees contract back into their trunks, like all these different kind of expansion and,
Well, like, I think, like wood warps, like the way it reacts in like humid and hot environments and cold environments, and like things, contract and expand. I don't know. It's neat. So the universe is doing the same thing. And why would the universe? Like, I think, everyone has that cartoonish sort of end of the universe is like a firm, like glass wall or something. Or it's like the sign that says end of the line. And like, really, it's just probably all weird and gaseous, and even who knows, and what would the end of the universe look like?
Well, there's different things.
And I mean, like, the physical end of the universe, not like the conceptual time or.
Most say like they call it the heat death.
Okay.
Because of entropy, and it's like essentially because we naturally go into disorder.
Okay.
Which is kind of
because it's no longer the vacuum of space; it's something
like it just constantly
like a heat shield.
Like it just becomes just like one big.
And we can't
oven,
sense something on the end, the other end of it,
which is interesting when you think about
fire some dark matter or something, or a black hole on the other side. Just
that's the other theory,
slingshot it through.
That it just like as it,
or would that put a hole in the balloon and then the universe would just?
Sorry, that would be cool. But yeah, that's the other theory though. Is it's the big crunch?
Yeah.
So instead of some believe that it's just gonna like the heat death, and then it's just gonna linger on. And just this, dead universe.
Everything
like,
just cooks.
Super big.
Yeah.
No life.
Yeah.
And then others believe that at that point is when it contracts and creates the next Big Bang.
Interesting.
So there's theories that believe that, the Big Bang itself was the birth from a dead universe before it. Right?
Yeah.
And then that kind of, now you're bringing it back. I'm thinking of time and how we perceive, you're saying, well, we kind of think that's going to be like this. And that's because we perceive time in this forward directional movement.
Yeah.
Where, and because of our relationship to the earth and the sun and how we're moving through space and we see it. But if we had a different way to perceive time, my favorite one is I forget the physicist's name, but he describes time and space as like a loaf of bread, and you cut slices where we see each slice in each, era, but in reality, all time and space is one big loaf of bread.
I got you.
So you could go from, one end of the loaf of bread to the other,
Is it just the unsliceable loaf, or you can eat as much as you want? Or you're just like a dude that just grabs the whole loaf and just starts eating it.
Yeah. Depends what kind of God you are.
Eats it like an apple.
Right. It just takes a bite wherever you want. But imagine if you could perceive, I don't know, I'm backtracking to the time part, but I'm thinking of like, if you could perceive time in that kind of manner where it isn't, this kind of forward directional movement all the time, and you would just be able to, okay, now I'm back in, when I was 4 years old, but it feels real to you as now, and or you could see ahead, like maybe now, there's a future. Yesterday, today, tomorrow.
You just keep having like the weird butterfly effect or whatever. You see how your future is affected.
See, now as we're getting more and more trippy in the conversation, we're going to take a quick break, and we come back with the more spiritual side of it, the more trippy side, which is how energy and the spirit are connected on Think Theory Radio right after this.
WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter.
Welcome back to Think Theory Radio. This is Damien, and today we are talking about the cosmic triangle, man.
Not the Bermuda Triangle.
No, not the Bermuda Triangle. Time, space, energy, mind, body, soul.
Yeah.
Or spirit, depending on what you like.
Earth, wind, and fire.
Yeah, earth, wind, and fire. Actually, that
Belle
is another.
Biv DeVoe.
That is another triangle, man.
Sorry.
Now this part, I feel like, the time, you can get a little trippy with time and mind and body and space, of course, which I think we did a little bit, but I feel like spirit and energy is where you can get really far out there, right? And obviously, if you think of every kind of, religion or any mysticism, any ancient beliefs, it usually is tied into some kind of soul, right? Or the chi or the prana, the ki, like all the different variations of what the soul and spirit is. But it's like kind of the basis of a lot of religions. I know God is a big part of it, but what did God do? Bestow a soul into a human body, right? And what I find interesting too is when you look at some of the older, religions, especially if you get into like, Taoism and Buddhism, Hinduism, a lot of the religions that talked more about energy and the viewpoint that everything is connected, and everything is a kind of a system of energy and consciousness. And years later, as, we moved into, actual physical sciences and then quantum physics, we started to realize how much that was true. And as we, get more and more into it, we're like realizing like, wow, there's so much energy. I talked about on Weird Science. I brought up the one where they figured out that the brain lights up.
Yeah.
And that there's like photons in there and they're like, powering on, and obviously we know that it's a, energy within our own body. I mean, everything in the universe is energy, right? It's packets of energy or quanta. And there is kind of, we talked about it with the body part where there's this, atoms and different particles are mostly made up of space, but it's just vibrating frequencies. All this like energy is just a system. And so there is the scientific correlation, and then you have, the spiritual side. What is the soul? Right? Is it something mystical or is it something quantifiable?
Yeah.
What do you think?
I don't know. I
because I know you're not a very religious person.
No,
but
that's the thing is like the older I get, the more I'm like, I think the soul is a myth. Yeah, I just, I'm like more of the
more
belief
of a materialist.
Materialist, I guess is the way you put it. Like of the belief that man is just probably just another animal, and we just happen to get really good at being able to not kill each other and learn things and take advantage of the the physical attributes that we have, and I don't know, and it's just disciplined over time, just the natural selection and the right people and the here we are.
For me,
so that's the thing. So it's like, and I hate to be like this because it's like I still was raised religiously. So like I want there to be the God, or I want there to be the soul.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what keeps us honest, and that's what keeps. That's why society traveled forward, was because we had
like
these
a checks
fears.
and balance kind of thing.
So I don't want to be that guy that's like, oh, it's just all. Just a bunch of hocus pocus, and I know that like there's always the argument that people have that are religious or spiritual, that's like there's these like the unseen and the mysteries of life or whatever, and it's like I think because just because there's like this weird thing amongst the human race where we think that we're just so advanced.
Yes,
we're just really kind of slow and dumb. So it's like, we don't have to know this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
It can be unexplained to us. But like, if we can harness our power as a human race, then maybe we can learn about some of these things or get to know it, or who knows, or maybe just we're the stepping stone for the next higher being or whatever. Like not a god, but whatever the next space superpower would be.
Yeah. Well, I know reading different. When there was this book called The Immense Journey, and I've talked about it before, but it's about biological life and what life is. But if you think of like an energy system, like it doesn't even have to necessarily be that there's a God, right? For there to be some kind of, I guess I go between, because me, I have like two sides. I have like the kind of like spiritual side, I have the scientific side. And I'm always trying to kind of balance those out. But at the same time, I don't think they negate each other. And I don't think that the more we can explain things through science, that it necessarily takes away the mystical element of it, because, life in itself always wants to propagate. Life just keeps going. Like you said, maybe we're just one part of, for the next step.
Yeah,
on the ladder,
that was always
right?
like George Carlin had like a thing about like, saving the planet, save the planet. He's like, I'm not worried about the planet. I'm worried about us. Like the planet will be fine. It'll adapt. It'll figure itself out. It'll, might not be suitable for human life, but the planet will.
But some other kind of life.
Yep. Yeah.
Because life finds a way, whatever it is, whether it was the dinosaurs.
Oh, I think it's the cockroaches will inherit the earth, yeah, or the tardigrades will inherit the earth, and then maybe like a million years from now, there'll be like a super race of tardigrade based, yeah. There you go. There's my wild prediction.
Does the tardigrade have a soul? But
will they even question that? Will they pray to a tardigrade god?
Yeah. Well, I always think about
or would the god be in like the ocean instead of the sky? Yeah,
like a dolphin. You know, you have the highly intelligent.
Yep. Yeah, what if there's like a super sort of like tardigrade dolphin sort of thing? I don't know.
That'd be awesome.
So I'm just kind of
space dolphins
shooting from the hip here.
No, but I'm thinking, our concepts, like exactly what you're saying is we believe that we're special, right? So we come up with these concepts that, we anthropomorphize God and that like it's in our image. We say that we're in God's image, but really God's in our image. That's how we create it, right?
Yeah. Man-made concept to me.
Yeah. And I mean, most religions, not all, but most kind of describe God as some kind of physical being in a way.
Always, yeah. The white man with the beard,
Or a brown man or whatever. But
so I'm just thinking of like the American viewpoint, the pop culture viewpoint.
Like Jesus.
Yeah. It's weird how many blonde-haired Jesuses I've seen.
I
like
know,
6'3", just like chiseled, and it's like, I don't think he looked like that at all. Like,
maybe Thor, but
right, but that's like maybe they're confusing,
exactly.
But we've talked about this how different areas, how Christ is depicted in different areas, kind of models the image locally. So.
And everyone thinks that they're the chosen, the next chosen. People. Is the same. I mean, Christianity comes from the Middle East, but then in Europe they believed that they were the chosen Christians, and then now the Americans believe they're the chosen Christians, or whoever else.
How ironic if what if Christ did come back and he was just like a short Jewish man, and it's like he just gets like totally iced out of the United States.
Yeah.
Like, that would be
pun intended.
Should I copyright that? Because I feel like that's a movie right now. Like Coen Brothers, you paid me for
Get together with Parker and Stone.
There you go. Yeah, next South Park episode, or when they invariably get fired from from CBS or Paramount or whatever.
But you made me think. It is if the life force is energy, if there is a soul, are we the only ones with it? And if obviously we know that the universe itself is just massive amounts of energy, whatever it is, dark energy, it's the energy we perceive, it's the energy coming from the sun, it's the photons in our brain lighting up. It's, they've done all the, we've talked about the death experiments where they try to quantify and see if the soul has weight. There's all these different ways to perceive, what kind of life force. And then also is consciousness energy, right? Is that what powers the brain? Or is it something else? Is it something outside of ourselves, right? But as we think about those, and back to what you were saying, if you have a being like a dolphin, which is a very highly intelligent, they have kind of their own language. Do they have a concept of that? So what if at some point we figure out their language, you start talking to them, and they have this oral history that they know more than we do because they've been around such a long time. They've been around longer than humans.
Like they've passed stories generationally. That'd be wild.
And then they're like, "What are you talking about, a soul?"
And then we like conspire with the dolphins. We have like a collective bargaining agreement to like build some sort of like ocean land. Sorry, I'm getting like really. Because you know it'd get
or
crushed.
maybe
You know that
Atlantis.
like there'd be like Dolphin Donald Trump would be trying to like really get in
Or
the
like,
way
what
of
about
it?
it?
And,
Like, we think that Atlantis, we think that it's, it was humans, but what if it was dolphins?
dolphins, yeah.
That's why it's down there in the Bermuda Triangle. See, back to the Bermuda Triangle. Because there's actually I have to follow up on this. This is from years ago. They had the kind of I don't know if it was LiDAR, but it was from a submarine, and they were just doing kind of what do you call that? Like not ocean, the bottom of the ocean surveying. I know there's a term for that. But
Yeah,
I don't.
Yeah.
But they have these images, these kind of like radar images that look like pyramids and different structures that are down in where the Bermuda Triangle is.
Yeah.
And they're verified to be legit in terms of at least the images themselves. We don't know what those are, if they're geological or whatever like that. But
I gotcha.
But what if it wasn't that Atlantis sunk, that it was always down there and it's the dolphins running things?
I don't know about that.
What if the dolphins are telepathic and they're controlling us?
No, I think it might be like when Pangea split, just something didn't quite make it, just slid right in. And
Yeah. Well, now you get into like, who knows if there were other, or like, like the dinosaurs. Did dinosaurs have a soul? Are we the only ones with a soul?
You know my stance on it. No, they did not. That's you throw whatever at me. Mosquitoes, dinosaurs. Like.
So I think that
Watch it be something ironic, like AI is the one with the soul.
Yeah. Well, we talked about that before. Are we just like a dream of AI?
Right. Yeah.
But there's also, you can obviously you feel the energy in your own body. Whether that's a soul or your consciousness or whether you feel it, you feel the pulse in your body, you feel the heartbeat.
Yeah.
And you can feel the blood pulsing through you,
winding up like a 1930s car. You're like,
yeah, right.
Yeah.
You could feel the heat in your body.
Yeah.
And we know that there's enough energy in a human body to power a light bulb, right? So there is a form of energy in the body. Whether that's some kind of mystical soul or just some kind of quantum, power source that we need to survive and
tap
live.
into it and just live off of the. Sorry.
Right. What if we could power our own
lizard braining right into the terrible corporatist?
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry.
Just plug in our cell phone or our smartphones into ourselves.
Right. Yeah. You got to do it for the good of the world. Got to do it.
Yeah.
Conserve.
Yeah. Exactly. I'm sure somebody has to be working on that, right? Where it's some kind of like
I hope not.
There's got to be. I guarantee there's some, because that's that's one of the ones like because they're
it's
trying
like
to put
baby
like the
to power
chips.
a toaster. Good.
Yeah. Well, if they're trying to put the chips in the brains, they need some kind of power to do it. If you think about like because they were like they got tracking devices in us, but
this
you
is really
need
the
a power
Matrix
source.
now, right?
Yeah,
that's what we're getting into. My goodness, are we at like the pre-stages before the Matrix? Is that what's going to happen here?
I could see that.
Like we're in the good old days right now.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
300 years from now, they're gonna be like, yeah, they actually got to like go places and like pick out whatever food they wanted to eat. You mean they weren't like attached to a pod?
Yeah. Don't get red pill, Paul.
Yeah.
No, but back to the energy soul.
Sorry.
No, you're good. But my point, I guess, is saying that even if, because I believe like you might be able to quantify everything. Now, even the most, the smartest minds in the world say we will never figure out everything. It's never going to happen. The more we learn that we don't know anything.
I think it's audacious enough to even think that there's a finite amount of things to learn. You know what I'm saying?
Totally. Yeah. And I think that's kind of the smarter people in the world realize that. And I think people that aren't, I don't want to say they're dumb people, but they think that scientists
the muggles.
don't think that.
Sorry.
But they think that scientists think they know everything, and it's like, no, scientists actually are the ones that know we don't know everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. But even if you could quantify the soul, does it take away from it? Does it make it that it's not important just because it's not something, unquantifiable, that it's not something that you don't know what it is. So to me, it's like thinking like, and I know we got to end the rep show, but I think about like something like emotions, like love, and you think that's something very important to people, right? But we also know it is just a kind of process in the brain that makes us feel things, that makes us, connect to one another. Is it something mystical or is it just scientifical? does it matter?
That's for another episode. Hey, this was a Meaning of Life episode.
I know. It was like
382 or something.
You got it.
Yeah.
All right. I want to thank everybody for listening. We'll be back again next week and every Saturday, 6 to 7 p.m. right here on WCBT 820 Think Theater Radio.